Hey, I'm Dean Spillane Walker, and chances are if you're watching this video, you already know me, but I'm hoping there'll be quite a few folks that will be new to what I'm about to talk about, and also perhaps don't know me. What I'd like to tell you about is a project that I'm involved with that's just very exciting and very close to my heart. It's a symposium that I'm creating with Carolyn Baker and Ivy Cohn. And that online symposium will be from October 13th through November 10th of this year, 2016. And as so many of the projects that we work on together this one's about our reaction to the very, very challenging times that we've got going on. Whether your attention might be on the financial situation around the world, or human systems and the stresses that they're under, or climate change. Either in any of those instances, the challenges are immense. And what we're interested in is to offer a safe environment in which people can have an honest, transparent conversation about that. Because it appears to us that there's not much room in the world for a safe conversation about those concerns, those very high level, high stress concerns that most of us carry on our heart. So we'd like to invite you again to an online symposium, which will be Tuesday and Thursday evenings between October 13th and November 10th. And we have a remarkable lineup of thought leaders, authors, speakers to join us in a conversation that is basically wrapped around the question of who will we be together in the face of all these challenges. And, when one person comes to mind, probably one of the first is one of the most remarkable activists and heartful and effective activists on the planet, a man named Derrick Jensen, will be joining us. Here's a little bit of what Derrick had to say, and a small excerpt from his pre-recorded interview for that session coming up.
But what I would want to be known for is someone whose loyalty was to the natural world. And when I introduce myself, I say, I'm a writer and activist. I've got more than 20 books out, and my work is about trying to stop this culture from killing the planet. And so I really became an activist maybe 27 years ago, 28 years ago, somewhere in there. And things were so much better then in terms of the real world. We've all seen those statistics on how wildlife populations have gone down by how much percent in the last 40 years? I don't remember the numbers, but it was like 70% or something. Just dreadful.
Right.
And, even 20 years ago, shellfish in the oceans weren't undergoing reproductive failure. And so it's, the Great Barrier Reef was still hanging in there. It's still hanging in there, but that's all it's doing at this point.
Yeah.
So, things are getting much worse by the day. And
so we can see that the stressors affect us all, even the folks who have been at it a long time, like Derrick. And he goes on to open up his heart to talk about what keeps him inspired and connected in the face of these daunting challenges. I hope you'll join us for that. Another guest that I'm very excited that we're going to be having on the symposium is a woman named Lisa Van Susteren. She's a psychotherapist, and also she's an author of some tremendous research that was recently generated about the estimates of how many people in the United States may be experiencing chronic or acute psychological and emotional concerns in the coming years as climate change and these other challenges come on. And their numbers added up to approximately 200 million. 200 million out of roughly 300 million of us. I'd say that's quite a few. And we once again, we got to talk with Lisa Van Susteren in a way that was far more personal and more heartful than we might hear out of research results. Here's a little bit about her perspective of what's coming. Really appreciate you contributing to this online symposium that we're wanting to put together, and thanks so much for doing what you do.
I have to say, I'm absolutely blown away at the incisiveness with which so many people are looking at this problem that I never knew about before. I've been living in this bubble here, lucky me, in Washington, where a lot of the hot air is contributing to our problems, as you well know. Right. And I'm just so in awe, really, of the perceptive capacity of people like Carolyn and Andrew Hartley and how the sense of the beauty of the spirit that experiences this so almost surgically is something that I'm just in awe about, because it's been a certain kind of blurred awakening that is happening to me, and here I discover all of you. You know, wouldn't it be nice if we could say it's 2030 or 2020 or 2040? It's right now.
Yes.
Do everything right now. It's just a question of how much worse it's going to get. We're seeing a collapse of our fisheries in oceans all over the world, with acidification that's coming from increased CO2, with rising temperatures, certainly with overfishing. But this is for God's sake, I mean, are oceans collapsing? Where are people going to get protein? What are they going to, eat? We certainly know that wildlife has declined, I think, by half in the last several decades. Well, I mean, that's our ecosystem. Even simultaneously as population is now on the rise. Do the math. Who's going to support our agricultural, who's going to support our food system is what I'm trying to say. And until we get money out of our political system, we are going to have these people hired by industry to continue to vote and lobby for the very things that are bringing us down.
Yeah, as you're talking, it reminds me of the book that was written by Dr. Per Espen Stoknes in Norway. You may know of him. He's a psychologist who wrote What We Think About When We Don't Want to Think About Global Warming. And he talks about this hard wiring and how really difficult it is for people to hear and really take this in. And also, we live in a very grief-phobic culture and a death-phobic culture. I suspect that in some of the more, the less developed countries, the indigenous cultures, it's easier to talk about this in a real way. But for us here in the United States, we really have barriers.
Oh, you're so right. I'm glad that you said that. You remind me. I lived in Africa and I worked as a doctor in Africa. And I saw the difference in a culture that recognized mortality and illness, and that you couldn't control everything. And while obviously there are benefits and downsides to being in a society like that, the sense of connection and the sense of community and taking care of each other and protecting each other was a very intimate activity. And grief was something that we were very open about. But here, people die in these very sterile environments and hospitals with tubes and noises and things that we know can make people psychotic. But yet that's what we do. And we rarely choose nor do we feel comfortable with expressing the realities of our mortality and all of the associated sentiments. And as you say, our grief.
Another guest that just made a remarkable difference on all of us as we prepared for this symposium, a man named Siwa Woodbury. And his particular emphasis, or at least his website, his emphasis is planetary hospice. And from a Buddhist perspective, Siwa Woodbury brings a broad and deep perspective that in which he invites us to expand our seeing of what's possible by being ever more present in the moment. And I could call this one of the themes that kept showing up as we asked each of our guests these same questions. How do they keep themselves open-hearted in the face of all this? I was also struck by Ziwa's attention on and focus on and emphasis about community, how much we really need each other in these times.
What physics teaches us, what quantum physics teaches us, it's just, I know this sounds like a weird answer, but is that there are no objects in the world. There are no objects. There are only relationships. What we label objects are relationships. This is like so critical because we live in a culture that objectifies everything, including each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like even our closest relationships, you know, it's hard to have real intimacy without that's free of objectification, you know. I mean, we depend on each other for everything. When we're threatened, it's only natural that we would look to community for some sense of safety. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you and I have talked before about trauma and how we basically live in a traumatized culture, and it's all around us.
Right.
What recovery from trauma involves is, first of all, recognizing the trauma, and that's a big one in our culture. But then creating some sense of safety. And the only logical, humane response to that is to focus on building stronger bonds in our community. And I think it has to go beyond, you know, just our close personal relationships, which of course are important for our own peace of mind. But really building what we call eco-resilience, the ability to withstand ecological trauma. It can only happen in community. We can't have, you know, there's this delusion out there of survivalists, you know, who think that they can somehow, you know, build a wall, buy a lot of guns, you know, like, and a lot of food or whatever, you know, like this. That's all very dissociative, dysfunctional behavior, because all you're doing is isolating yourself and or isolating you and your family or whatever. That's not going to help. But building community helps. And the solutions, I should say, the ways of becoming more constructive and climate friendly happen in community, such as building community around our food and where our food is coming from, where we buy it and where our grocery stores get it from.
Lastly, I'd like to mention someone who's been incredibly inspiring for me. I have never been a very religious person, but I've got to say that there are a number of religious characters that in these past couple of years have really come to the fore for me, made a huge difference in my ability to find an increased capacity to find faith and hope in my own heart as I grapple with these challenges. A man named Michael Dowd. And I could say that Michael has single-handedly created what he calls a new 10 commandments, based not on the Bible or on any other scripture, but on what is evident in our world in any given moment, on the natural world. And it's deeply inspiring, his perspective, and he's extremely humble in his pursuit of bridging between the religious community and the secular community. And I think his work could be called nothing short of finding a right relationship with the earth through the more traditional religious form. I find him very, very inspiring, and hope you will too. Much for just being so generous as you are, and for contributing to this symposium, and can't wait for the Q&A and see how much further we can take it.
Well, thank you, Dean. And let me just say that I want to say this publicly. I just honor you. I'm a deep bow of gratitude, and I honor you, and in the same way that I know you've been working closely with Carolyn Baker, and I just honor the both of you for the work that you do and what this symposium is doing to really help people prepare for these, what you call impossible conversations, and to have the heart space, this heart of love in dealing with some of the most difficult, challenging conversations that humans have ever had to have. And so it's a delight to be a part of your tribe, to feel community with you.
Thank you so much, Michael, for doing this with us. This is just one of the richest hours that I've had in a long time. Just juicy. And just one.
All right, so that's it for now. Thank you for watching these few minutes of introduction to this online symposium called Active Love Beyond the 11th Hour. It's a co-production of Carolyn Baker, myself, Dean Spillane Walker, and Ivy Cohn. We hope you'll join us for this online symposium Tuesday and Thursday evenings in October and November. And of course, every one of these sessions will be recorded, and anyone who subscribes to the symposium will have the recordings available to them forevermore. One thing that I think is perhaps most important to mention is that this symposium, we intend to have it be the start of an offering of an online community starting up soon after the sessions of the symposium. The intention of that is to have a bi-weekly open meeting where people will have a safe place in order to share what's going on for them as they face their own particular challenges, large or small, personal to their family or global. And we are very excited about that because as you heard in these few minutes, and as I'm sure you know from your own experience, this is a time to be building community, a time when we truly need each other. Hope you'll join us. Thank you.